Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for those of you in the room facing Mother Nature to be here today, and for those of us joining via the webcast, welcome. We are very grateful for you to be here today for this externally led, patient-focused drug development meeting regarding chemotherapy-induced hearing loss in the pediatric oncology population. I can't tell you how exciting it is to see all of you here. This meeting has been about 2 years total in the making, about 6 months of planning for today, and we are just very excited to have all of you here. I'm Kat Paciente, and I'm here as a board member of Momcology and as a member of the planning committee. In the last few months, I've had the pleasure of working with some very remarkable and dedicated people from our organizations on the planning committee. I'd like to thank them. Children's Cause for Cancer Advocacy, Maddie Miracle Foundation, and Children's Brain Tumor Foundation. So thank you to everyone that's been in on the planning and has been working tirelessly to bring all of us together today. Our organizations came together because we feel strongly that prevention of hearing loss, as well as better treatments after hearing loss has occurred, it's important to the pediatric cancer patient population. And there was a need for the FDA to hear the patient voice. I'd like to thank our foundation organizers, the planning committee, our sponsors, and our sponsors are all listed here on the board, for being here today and listening to the patient experience. I'd especially like to thank the FDA Office of Strategic Programs and Shannon Woodward. You guys have been extraordinarily helpful in helping us navigate this process. Also, the Oncology Center of Excellence and everybody in those offices has been extraordinarily helpful and supportive throughout this process. We wouldn't be here today without all of you. I'd also like to thank the patients and the patient families, both on the panels, in our audience, and via webcast. I know it's not easy to stand in a room like this and share your stories, but doing so, you will allow people on the outside of this experience an opportunity to see into your lives and to better understand the profound impact hearing loss has on your child and on your families. I'm here today too, not just as an organizer, but as a parent. I know firsthand that as parents of survivors, we often avoid the conversation surrounding burden of disease for late effects because it feels like placing a burden on survival. We do this for many reasons: survivor's guilt, fear that we might seem ungrateful, worry our children might think that they themselves are a burden. I stand here today and can tell you with certainty that I, like you, wouldn't change anything. I'm beyond grateful for the gift of my son exactly as he is. I love him and cherish him, and his trials have in many ways made me the person I am. But none of that means that he didn't deserve and doesn't deserve better. Today, we all have the opportunity to open the curtain into our real lives. My real life, it includes a whole lot of gratefulness, but it also includes a little boy who is often sad at being left out, who refuses his hearing aids because they hurt and they make everything sound weird, and they make him different in yet one more way from his peers. My boy dislikes school, and he's missing out on his education. He's a child who works 10 times as hard as his classmates and just can't seem to keep up. He's an 11-year-old terrified not only of death, but of missing out on life as he actually lives it. I can't change his history, and I might not be able to change the landscape for him, but sharing his story may very well change it for others. I invite all of you to share your stories. Open up to the real life, the real challenges that you face every day, and let the people in this room see not only the joy, but the burden of survival. It's a difficult conversation, but one that we owe to each other, our children, and the children yet to fight. We can do better, and today we get to share one of the reasons why. We are a room of people that are coming from all different perspectives, but we have shared goals. Let's use today as the opportunity it's intended to be to bring together the patients, patient families, clinicians, and policymakers and share the truth as it exists for each of us, and perhaps bring us a little closer to the goal of doing better for our kids. With that, I'd like you to allow me to introduce you to Rhea Blakey. Rhea is the Associate Director of External Outreach and Engagement with the FDA Oncology Center of Excellence. Rhea is one of many people here today who are anxious to hear your stories and who really does understand and recognize the importance of the patient voice. Rhea.
Thank you very much, Kat. I appreciate that. I did not expect applause, so thank you for that as well. I'm delighted to be here today. I've been at the FDA about 4 years now, and in my current role, about 8 weeks. So my remarks will be extremely high level, but I'm glad to share with you the opportunity to tell patient stories, to increase the input of the patient perspective, because the FDA very much wants to have more opportunities to hear from patients, because patients are our end users, and we never forget that. So thank you again for allowing me the opportunity. Thank you, George, for calling me. Thank you all to the sponsors and those of you who have participated for the last couple of years, I understand, to pull this together. The externally led patient-focused drug development meetings are something that are very important to the FDA. And I'll give you a little bit of background. By way of that, I do want to start, though, with a question. How many of you are familiar with the MedWatch listserv? Okay, one hand. We'll need to increase the number on that. The reason you should know about MedWatch is because it is an opportunity for you to engage with FDA. And I'm going to talk to you about just a few opportunities, but this one in particular is the opportunity to provide safety information about adverse events. And it's a reporting system that we have. There are 350,000 people who participate on the listserv, and we always want to increase that number because we want to make sure that the information is readily available to patients and people who might have experiences that we need to know about. So please do look into that. Almost everything I'm going to tell you about today, you can find on the fda.gov website. So rather than repeatedly mention that, I'll just put a pin in it there, and then keep in mind that there's all kinds of robust information that is, in fact, available. As Kat mentioned, I'm the Associate Director of Engagement at the FDA Oncology Center of Excellence. We are new. It is a great honor for me to participate. It is an opportunity, I think, to be on the verge of something new and exciting at the FDA. And we're committed to creating more opportunities for patients to participate in FDA decision-making in particular. By way of that, there is something called the 21st Century Cures Act, which I hope that you're familiar with. Was passed in 2016, and it's designated to help accelerate medical product development and to bring new innovations and advances to patients who need them faster and more efficiently. Now, that law builds on FDA's ongoing work to incorporate the patient voice. We want to hear from you. So when I talk to you about the Oncology Center of Excellence, it's because it's an important aspect of the 21st Century Cures Act. In fact, the Oncology Center of Excellence, which we lovingly refer to as OCE, because as government people, we love our acronyms, so forgive me if I slip into that. OCE is the first FDA center that's focused on creating a cross-cutting interdisciplinary team that centers around a specific disease rather than focusing on specific products. In the first year of our operation, our director, Dr. Richard Pazder, and the OCE team have established OCE as the agency's main hub for medical oncology, clinical expertise, and engagement. And through the Oncology Center of Excellence, the FDA seeks to create a unified and collaborative effort, scientific environment to advance the development and regulation of oncology products for patients with cancer. Now, on March 15th, 2018, the Oncology Center of Excellence held a listening session in which the public was invited to provide input on our structure and how we would function. We were very much looking for information from the public, which is you, about how we would define success for OCE. It's part of the initiative in which we want to have two-way conversation with patients. So I would strongly encourage you that if there's an opportunity for you to attend another event similar to this or any FDA-sponsored events, we want to hear your voice. Please come out. Don't shy away from us. We need you to better serve you as patients. OCE also held a one-day public workshop for cancer patient advocates on November 13th, 2017, and that provided a broad introduction to FDA regulatory aspects of oncology drug development and also included a wide-ranging discussion with advocates on their interactions with the Food and Drug Administration. Nothing's perfect. However, based on the positive feedback that we received, the second annual Patients in Progress Cancer Patients Advocates and FDA workshop will take place November 27th, 2018. Again, we welcome you to attend. The registration is in fact open on our website. So as we continue to develop the Oncology Center of Excellence, it's imperative that we seek feedback, both internally and externally, on how things are working. And overall, we have received positive feedback for the most part from both internal and external stakeholders. And we are continuing to regularly engage with stakeholders to get your feedback and to hear from you about how we can best meet your needs. This year, one of the two main areas of focus for OCE includes external engagement, and that means engaging with external stakeholders who are involved in patient advocacy groups, academia, professional societies. Obviously, we will continue to talk to industry, but I strongly urge you to be as active as you possibly can so that we hear your voice. I know people hear these comments sometimes from federal agencies, but we encourage you to please follow up. So step back a second and talk just briefly about the patient-focused drug development meetings, which were the impetus for the externally led patient-focused drug development meetings. The PFDD meetings, as we like to call them, took place from 2012 to 2017 and were initiated under the authorization of the Prescription Drug User Fee Act. There were 24 disease-specific patient perspective meetings, and we talked about diseases and their treatments, and we wanted specifically to know from key stakeholders in the public, including patient advocates, researchers, drug developers, healthcare providers, and others, and the FDA. This opportunity to hear the patient's voice was unique. Prior to that, it really didn't exist. We've built on it because we understand at the FDA and recognize that there are many more than just 24 specific disease states. However, that led then to the FDA welcoming patient organizations such as today to provide an opportunity to identify and organize patient-focused collaborations to generate more public input on other disease areas using the process that was established under the patient-focused drug development model. As you know, we call these current meetings externally led patient-focused drug development meetings. So FDA invites organizations such as yours to identify and organize patient-focused collaborations and to generate input into the FDA decision-making process. We welcome submissions to links of meeting reports. We hope that you will submit one today from all stakeholders who are collecting patient perspectives on disease burden and disease treatment. And we are happy to add that information to our FDA website so that we're sharing the information with all patients. There are a couple of other opportunities I'd like to briefly mention for interaction, for engagement with the Food and Drug Administration. One is the FDA Patient Representative Program. And that particular program provides an opportunity for the patient voice to be added to the discussion of new and already approved drugs and devices and to policy question issues. The FDA Patient Rep Program is managed by the Advisory Committee Oversight and Management Staff, lovingly known as ACOMS. Again, we love our acronyms. That's within the Office of the Commissioner. And ACOMS coordinates, recruits, and trains and manages the FDA Representative Program, which involves consultants who are patients and primary caregivers. Again, an opportunity to interact and have your voice interjected in the FDA decision-making process. The consultants, should you be selected as a patient representative, provide knowledge and experience in more than 300 diseases and conditions and participate in FDA advisory committee meetings, also panels and in review division assignments. Now, FDA patient representatives provide direct input to the agency's decision-making process. I want to make that very clear. It's a wonderful opportunity. However, we do recruit as needed, depending on which advisory committees are coming up on the docket. And we're currently looking for patients or caregivers with advocacy experience or who have been diagnosed with pediatric inflammatory bowel disease and/or opioid use specific to the pediatric space. There are other areas where we're recruiting for patient reps, and you can, again, go to the FDA.gov website and find out specifics about that, but I strongly encourage you to be involved in that. And while you're on the website, please check for information about any upcoming public meetings that are sponsored by the Food and Drug Administration. If you simply put it into the search engine, you will get a long and exhaustive list because we're busy and we like meeting and we want to hear from patients. So it's extremely important that you get involved. And also this friendly reminder. Oftentimes people will come to meetings at the Food and Drug Administration or be involved to ask to participate, but we also want feedback afterwards. You'll find that there is a guide to submitting comments to the FDA if you visit a slightly different website, this one called regulations.gov. So on the regulations.gov website, you can find, read, and comment on FDA draft guidances, which is basically how the agency is seeing a particular issue or policy at the time, a guidance. You'll find other FDA-related documents there as well, but primarily your comments do make a difference and can impact the outcomes of FDA decision-making and regulatory policy. We do pay attention to the information that comes in through through regulations.gov and also FDA.gov, but we want you to share your knowledge and your experience and to make your voice heard. Finally, I just want to very briefly talk with you about opportunities for meetings at FDA. If you'd like to have a meeting at FDA, under the Commissioner's Office, we have a patient affairs staff, and my colleagues there are exquisite at triaging information, making sure that the appropriate people hear about it, and we will do the best that we possibly can to address your needs. We can't take every meeting, but we do try. So I do want to encourage you to reach out to our patient affairs staff, and if you need to reach them by email, you can simply send an email to patientaffairs@fda.hhs.gov. One final thing, and that is that if the request specifically has to do with drugs, there is a site, a web page, a form that you can fill out called Request a Meeting on Drugs. And that will specifically go to the Center for Drug Evaluation and Research, and my colleagues in the Office of Professional Affairs and Stakeholder Engagement will manage that. The other requests that may have to do with devices or with biologics, patient affairs staff will manage. But all of that information is readily available on the website, and I would be remiss if I didn't encourage you to follow us on Twitter at FDA Oncology. And also, please do follow the FDA Commissioner, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who is very active in the social media space. I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I encourage you to take this opportunity to really decide as a community what it is you would like the FDA to know in regards to patient engagement and your needs in particular. We're listening. I have colleagues here who I'm sure we will confer afterwards, and I hope it's a wonderful meeting for you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much.